Another episode of Special Sesh. Matt Kennicott down there in his Socorro homestead. Andy Lyman here. So I can fix my camera totally, uh, or fuck it up more. I don't know. Anyway, Special Sesh, another episode, and I think
Here
Matt,
we are.
we're gonna get into in a little bit probably what's on lots of people's minds as far as cannabis and New Mexico politics, which is the track and trace debacle, I guess you can call it, that's happening. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I guess we another week where, well, and people will understand soon why we didn't record. I think last week you've been busy working on some stuff, but uh, how else is the farms going? I see you're popping up at the farmers market every week.
Dude, the farm's going great. The cannabis is looking really good. I just gave them another feed today. We're getting some chonker buds on the tops of some of these plants. They're just looking really good. And farmers market's awesome. I was actually just elected to the board of the farmers market as if I
Nice.
don't have much else going on, but it's all right. It's pretty cool. I've enjoyed working with everyone there so far, and Saturdays are farmers market days now, so it's a lot of fun. And then I actually auditioned for a show at our kind of little community theater group here on
Oh, nice.
Thursday. It's called A Trip to the Moon. It's like 14 vignettes that take place in 1969 during the moon landing, and it's pretty cool. Different perspectives from different from different people. So we'll maybe see me in a show in a couple of different roles here in the next couple of months.
I got a
So,
question for you about that, but I also just wanted to say again, because Luna
oh
Leaf
yeah.
is God, I don't know how to use internet cameras apparently. Luna Leaf is my neighborhood spot, so they don't pay me anything. As a matter of fact, I pay them. But
I'm actually smoking a nice nug oops from some growers down south. Really small shop, really good stuff. Dragoon's Lair. Anthony and Eli down there are a couple homies. When we were there last time, they hooked us up pretty good. I've got a native tobacco plant they gave us too,
nice.
so I'm keeping that going. Maybe roll a couple of blunts and learn how to make some homemade dip or something.
Yeah. Could make some cigars too, huh? Like real
Oh, hell yeah.
just age them Socorro aged cigars.
Socorro aged cigars. I also really like smoking pipe tobacco.
Oh
So
yeah.
perhaps some shredded pipe tobacco too. We'll see. The plant is awesome. It's getting nice and big. It puts out some nice resinous leaves just like cannabis does. So pretty cool.
Uh does that take I guess that because it's native, you said, so it doesn't take a lot of extra moisture. It's not the same sort of tobacco you'd be growing in the South.
No, definitely not. This is definitely a Southwest cultivar, I'd say. The I'm actually growing it inside though. I want to test my hand on it inside first, and
Yeah.
we'll let it go to flower to get some seeds, and then I'll put some seeds out next season.
I thought about that the other day about how cool it would be to grow tobacco next to cannabis plants, and then my brain immediately went to well, that's how you get more tobacco slash tomato bugs, right? I mean, I think tobacco has a lot of those same the pest control issues too. So I mean, what I'm getting at is go doing it inside first is probably a smart way to go about that. You can control the environment a little bit better.
Yeah, I'd probably use it as more of a trap crop. What it does is it attracts the insects there instead of to the cannabis, and you
Okay,
can figure out what's actually in the neighborhood,
gotcha.
and use it that way. Or what I will probably end up doing is growing it around the commercial garden too, with all of the commercial market garden beds, and using it there too. So it works in a lot of different ways. We've been experimenting with a lot of different types of flowers and stuff too to kind of complement the cannabis, complement the vegetables, and I thought ahead a little bit this year and to complement the tobacco too. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. We've had a pretty cool, healthy ecosystem in the garden. V posted a story yesterday of a bee mimicking robber fly eating a grasshopper. It was really cool.
I saw that because she had said she saw something chomp through a whole stem
Yep.
uh or whole branch and that she thought was a grasshopper, right?
Oh yeah, it definitely was. It was sitting right there on the plant, and she was same plant. She was looking for it, and she saw that bee mimicking robber fly right on the back of the thing, just munching away on its head.
Huh. I meant to ask you this earlier when you first mentioned it, but about the
Yeah.
trying out for the play. Did you do drama and stuff when you were younger in high school, or this is the first? So
No,
this,
dude, the last play I was in was like fifth grade.
all right. So
I
this is,
I think I worked stage crew, and I played trumpet through school. My parents got me when I'm reteaching myself, but no, it's more the public speaking experience that I've had through life. So this is more my first
that'll be
real like thing.
that'll be cool. So you have to hear it
Yeah.
to see if you got the part, right?
Yeah, next week they or this week they should do callbacks. So
Well, that's exciting. That's cool. That'll be
yeah.
fun. We'll have
Yeah, it'd
to
be a lot of fun.
get folks to come down and watch the Socorro Community Theater if you get it.
We'll
Uh,
pack the house.
yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah, it's just this. We're recording on Sunday again, and finally got some. I sort of got gifted, and it's the story about how I got them is a long story. It doesn't really matter, but got a couple electric bikes. They're sort of foldable
Ooh,
electric
nice.
bikes. Um, and I got my youngest out there, who neither of my kids really ever, for whatever reason, didn't show a big interest in riding bikes. But my youngest, as soon as he saw one of those electric bikes, he's like, "Let's go take him out." So we were zipping up and down our street yesterday before the sun went down. Um, it's I've never. Have you ever been on an electric bike before? I never
No, no,
messed
no,
around with
no.
one. The
Looks
only
cool as hell
jarring,
though.
I mean, it's fun. The only jarring thing about this was that like when it does, there's not really a slow ramp up. I mean, I didn't get it going
It
really
just
fast,
goes.
but I'd be pedaling and then the assist would kick in and you sort of like kind of jerk back a little bit. And
That's
same
funny.
if I use the actual throttle, like there's a little bit of a pullback,
A
like
little kick.
yeah, yeah. Uh, Luckily it's got some big fat tires, so it's not as, you know, I've got my sort of road hybrid bike with real narrow tires. That thing is way less forgiving when you're trying to go one-handed on the handlebars or something or hit a bump, but
I
yeah,
I've got a fat tire bike. I was looking at electric conversion kits. I think that'd be kind of fun to have around just around Socorro since we're so small.
yeah. Yep. I told my kid we could take it out to I gotta do a little bit more research about what is allowed and isn't in Bernalillo County on the dirt trails, but for sure we could go down to, the bosky paved areas and
Oh yeah.
down there.
Shit, throw them in the car and bring them down here to Socorro. You can ride around the farm, and then we're right on the ditch. You can literally ride those ditches all the way up to Belen and pretty close to TRC, I think.
Yeah, I'll definitely take you up on that. I've got some things planned out, but I realize that I've never actually sat down with my kid and talked about uh state of the right. I think he's used to riding a bike
Yeah.
like a kid, and so I'm like, now
Oh
you've got
yeah.
essentially a vehicle, so you got to stay over here, let's not take up all the road. You're going way faster than a regular bike would be going.
That's cool. That's really cool.
It was fun. Uh so yeah, like I said, the big thing that I think everybody probably wants to know more about or has some opinions about is the let me I guess to back up and prime anybody that doesn't know what we're talking about, that the state uh basically every state that has legalized weed has some sort of tracking system, some better than others, some more comprehensive than others. But the idea here is that the state can see how much people are producing, right? That's what these track and trace, seed to sale, whatever you want to call it, is a way to make sure people aren't peppering in black market stuff. And I guess just to get an
Yeah.
idea of what's being sold, right?
Yep.
Um, I know back when I first started covering cannabis, I would hear all the time about how bad BioTrack is, which is the system the state's moving away from. And then as I learned more and as the years went by, I also realized, or what a lot of people would tell me, is that there's not really a good like at the time there was maybe three or four companies around the country that did this, and they all sort of had their goods and bads, right? So there was for a while it seemed like, let's say in 2015, 2016, there was a big push for we got to have a better way to do this.
Yeah.
And then at some point when full rec came into play in New Mexico, it became sort of a, yeah, it works for now,
Hmm.
like and
Yeah.
I kind of was surprised. I thought I did not see an urgency from the state for a very long time about updating any of it. I mean, God, their contract has been up a few times, and since it's, you know what I mean, like they've just continually to renew it over and over and over and over again. So, um, but anyway, yeah. So for folks that don't know, you on behalf of the Cannabis Association of New Mexico, a bunch of other businesses filed an injunction. I guess that's where your expertise kicks in. So let's back up a little bit. What was the first notification that people start getting from the state, or when was it, and what did they say?
Yeah.
We're changing this up.
So So your history is correct. The replacement really dates back to 2024, and Metric, a different company now. BioTrack Metric is one. They merged. Metric purchased BioTrack, but yes, goes back to 2024. The Metric won the original bid. State came back later and said we think we found a math error, so they canceled it, reissued the RFP October of last year, um, and then awarded the contract to Real Time Solutions out of Albuquerque January 27th or 28th of this year. From there, BioTrack filed a protest, as you're allowed to do under the RFP process in New Mexico, under the competitive bid process in New Mexico. Excuse me. They lost their appeal with the state, so then filed a lawsuit in state district court. That lawsuit has not had a hearing yet. My understanding is it's scheduled for later this month. So they have sued over the bid and the
So that's
award.
that BioTrack sued or some other
Yeah,
companies. Okay.
separately. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that one's been in the courts since, I want to say, around June, if I remember right. It came pretty close to after the protest period was over, with the original award.
And that one seems, of course, I'm not a lawyer by any means, but that one seems like it would be a little bit harder to justify an expedited process here, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I mean, there's obviously they'd be suing for damages, saying we could have had this contract, but in the end, it's hard to make an argument other than, I mean, any good judge would say like, yeah, you'd have some harm, but even if you win, we'll just award you money, basically, right?
Yeah,
But
pretty much. That's kind of what I
whereas
think about it. Look, I want to be clear too. We don't the Cannabis Association of Mexico, the industry, we don't have a dog in this fight. Our only dog in the fight is looking out for our businesses. That's it. We're gonna be mandated to use whatever the state selects anyway. So what we want is a working system. Now, obviously, there was a chain of events laid out in the RFP. The state is, the state laid those out. So uh, what we haven't seen is really engagement with the industry. They sent out a June 26th, or it was around that time frame, June 26th survey to industry. It was a voluntary survey asking about, potential features you might want to see. And at the end, it said, well, we're not going to talk about basically any of this to any individual. The next communication we had was basically 3 weeks ago that said more information is coming. Stay tuned, pretty much. Talked about a little bit about the NMS2S, which is the new track and trace system. And then the week after that, they basically said you have 2 weeks to prepare for the transition. So really, three communications came to us. What they said in that third one is August 25th, which is Tuesday of this week at 5 p.m. We're turning BioTrack off for all licensed classes except for retailers. I mean, producers, manufacturers, couriers, wholesalers like Veronica can't sell during that time. What that means is when they turn BioTrack off, we have no means of conducting commerce. We can work, sure. Like we'll still be able to work on our plants, and keep track of our waste. Manufacturers can still fill carts or make gummies, but that doesn't equal cash flow. So basically they're saying they're going to cut off our cash flow for at least 6 days. There may be a little bit longer downtime and there may be outages as they're rolling this thing out. So part of the lawsuit, or I'm sorry, part of the emergency injunction we filed in Bernalillo County on Friday really shows the harm that's going to come to businesses. Um, you you can't shut businesses down in this industry for 6 days and expect nothing to happen.
And so,
It's margins are super thin.
so does that mean, remind me again of the period of time that it's shut down? It's 2 weeks that it's going to be shut down?
It's from August 25th through I believe it was September
5th or
2nd, if I
7th?
remember.
Yeah, something
Yeah,
like.
it's a total of 6 days.
So during that time means that there's no track and trace for retailers, but there is for growers. Is that what it is? No,
No, it's the other way around. There's no track and trace for growers or manufacturers. There is for retail.
because they
They're
have
going
to
to keep
sell, right? They
Yeah, and
don't
they're
have
going to
much.
keep BioTrack running side by side. And so here's the other crazy thing that the retailers are going to have to do manual data entry from one system to the other. And if they use another POS system, they're going to have to probably do some manual data entry from the POS into the new system too. There's an API, I guess, that's been worked out, but I'm being told that it's paper thin. There's not much to it. There's not a lot of security. Doesn't auto renew, and there it can only really read and write to four different parts of the new system when you really need access to everything for those retailers to be able to manage stuff. Um, it's just incredible that we're at this point. Um, the first, I guess, look that any of us had of this was last Friday at I want to say around 6 p.m. when the state said, "Oh, we launched a new website for NMS2S. We've got some training manuals up there." Of course, everybody in the industry started looking at those training manuals. Those are paper thin too. There's really nothing to them. Every page is basically just a screenshot. uh there's some stuff in there that's interesting. Some of it looks like they want to de facto implement rules changes through the system rather than going through the process of making those rules changes. um some of those things look like uh well, as the rule is written right now, for example, producers can maintain other types of inventory other than flower under their production license. So we obviously grow the flower, but sometimes we send it off to manufacturing. We either want rosin or resin done, pre-rolls, whatever. What they're doing in the new system is not allowing or not allowing growers to hold anything but flower in their under their license in the new system, meaning now every grower is going to have to go out and get a manufacturing license just to hold manufactured products.
So
Doesn't make much sense.
there's a few things to unpack there. I want to go back to
Yeah,
the beginning, the basics, just so I can understand. I'm hoping this will also help other folks that are maybe. I'm guessing a lot of people that are actively in the industry right now have their own gripes and their own concerns as well. But just if there's anybody watching or listening that maybe is trying to understand a little bit more. Um, so if you're saying basically, long story short, growers have a quote unquote workaround where they can still harvest, right? I mean, that's the
yeah,
story at least. That's the like that
yeah.
if I so that's I mean, I guess
Well,
no.
The workaround is keep track of it on paper or in a spreadsheet, and at the end of the day, it's trust me, bro. So one
which
other
is
thing to unpack, there's going to be a lot of black market activity.
is funny because that's exactly what the other day I shared an old story that I wrote about. That was exactly what the
Yeah.
Goodman family got in trouble for, going back. The issue itself goes back probably 10 years, but basically they got in trouble. I want to say 2022 or something like that. So about 4 years
Mhm.
ago, um, that's what they were doing, is that there was no, again, sort of to simplify it, there was apparently no way to uh, account for a change in weight between wet weight and dry weight, I think is what it was essentially. Or there was an entering problem. And so what DOH had told them years ago was just keep a very detailed spreadsheet. So if we ever come around asking where stuff is. Now they got in trouble for other stuff for not labeling things and all those other things. But I remember the track and trace thing, they got dinged because they were using their own spreadsheet and the state was like, you can't do that. And they're like, well, your system doesn't allow us to do it. And so now we're going back to just keep a spreadsheet, um, and hope that I don't know, that it lines up. I mean, side note too, not to derail the conversation, but I think somebody told me, it was a previous producer maybe, um, that essentially if you're in the old days of biotrack and medical, if everything worked out exactly even, then you were probably cheating the system, right? There's
Yeah,
such
probably.
there's such there's such a level of reduction in your product. I mean, there's all these things that people don't think about. It's not like you can count pills or even a liquid which still evaporates, but you're talking about this biomass that ends up getting trimmed down and trimmed down and trimmed down, and then also you go to a deli style dispensary and they might do something really friendly like trim off a little bit of the stem on the bottom of the bud for you. How do you account for that? I mean,
Yeah.
it's such an there is it is an exact science, but there's so many other factors that go along with it of, like, uh again, from going from wet weight to dry
W-
weight, you're gonna lose somebody
Well,
in that.
I'm glad you mentioned wet weight to dry weight because now in the new system, they're going to make us estimate the dry weight. That which is absolutely ridiculous. Estimating dry weight, I mean, sure, I could probably apply some kind of moisture loss formula to it, but really it's all based on your environment and what temperature you keep it at, the relative humidity in the room. What is it like outdoors? Is it really rainy and bringing more humidity in, or is it super dry like it is right now? How much air loss do you have in the room? I mean, there's so many factors that go into it. I could
how
probably
how
be
how
off by a
dense
factor of 10.
how dense are your buds,
Yeah.
how
How
big
dense
are
are your
your leaves,
buds? Yeah.
uh
Yep.
all those
Exactly. It's a
things, yeah.
stupid number to ask for. Wet weight is even a stupid number to ask for because it doesn't mean anything. Um, Really, it should be what you have on dry weight and your waist. Those are the two things that matter because you can tell a lot from those.
Again, not to I'm
It's
gonna
really that simple.
diverge into another thing. I just had this thought that, like, it really is about, I know that it will become this way someday, probably in our lifetime, but um given the fact that the more and more people are taking edibles, are using concentrates, that at some point it seems logical that flower weight is going to be no more inconsequential or consequential as the weight of your barley before you start brewing your beer. Like, I mean, yes, you can obviously smoke flour product, but it's sort of like, I don't know if our goal is to make sure that we don't have stuff falling out the back door off of a truck, like, there's
This
probably
ain't the way.
better ways to do it. Yeah. 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 Especially because, like you said, there's going to be this dark period. It's sort of like, God, I have it on the tip of my tongue. Like, I don't know. It's probably a basic action trope, like, we're going to go dark for 30 seconds and then turn it back on and hope that everything isn't, to go to a crazy extreme example, it would be like, we got to shut down power at the prison for 24 hours. And hopefully when the lights come back on,
Mhm.
everything is good. Um, there's going to
It,
be,
it I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me at all. Like I don't know. It's just if you want to say you want to fight the illicit market or black market activity, and you're building a new system that is supposedly going to help with that, why are you going completely dark for 6 days? That alone doesn't make any sense to me at all because at that point it becomes trust me, bro. And they can't get out to every single producer out there. I guarantee you there's going to be people selling pounds out the back door and bringing pounds in through the back door at the same time. It's the nature of the beast. Um,
Has the division
you know,
said anything about why they can't operate both systems at the same time?
No, because technically the funded part of the contract doesn't end until September 15th. So I that's the other thing I don't understand. Like they could absolutely run it in parallel for three additional weeks.
That would
So
do a lot of things. Number one, it would keep the regular system going and make a smooth transition, but that's like a good test right there, right? Do
yeah,
these two things
absolutely.
Are these two things rectified at the end of the day, at the end of this little period of overlap? Are the numbers the same? And if they're not, you can figure out maybe they're not supposed to be, and everything's okay. But at least then you can say, yeah. And I mean, it's so confusing to me, and obviously we'll see what the state has to say in their answer. I think a lot of the comments, and again, this is part of the reason I think the conversation you and I are having right now is important because I think there is not a disconnect, it's just a misunderstanding. Um, Due to some quotes from folks and particularly even people at the state where it's sort of, and maybe it gets conflated with this BioTrack lawsuit issue where, like you said, the gripe for most people is not changing to something else. Like I said at
No.
the beginning of our show now is that like it's not like people were in love with BioTrack. It's not like it had
Yeah.
it had its problems, and I think a lot of people would agree. Like, yeah, let's. And as a matter of fact, I think done the right way, I think a lot of people would agree. Let's get a local firm to do it, which Real Time Solutions is. Uh,
Yeah.
Very familiar with work state contracts, which is a whole nother issue that we can't get into because then I'm like now I'm not then I'd go into the conspiracy theory realm. But let's just take it at face value is that here's a company that knows very well how
Yeah.
to run tech stuff, to put it very like loosely, for state agencies. Um, and so as Matt, they might have very well been the right person to do it. And there's a lot of advantages to say, hey, we got some people in Albuquerque. That's where our tech support is. They can actually just, drive up to our offices and check under the hood, and and we can actually uh um tailor it very specifically to what the state needs, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I think in the long run, real-time solutions might prove very useful, especially integrating point of sale systems. I mean, that was going back to uh 20 with the first day of legal sales, or first 6 months of legal sales, where all of a sudden people are going, oh wait, we're supposed to be applying the tax in a different way, and but our POS system doesn't do BioTrack, which you're requiring us to use, doesn't even do it. So I can see the list of advantages to say, okay, real-time solutions, we want a custom package that applies tax this way, that tracks everything, that people can use as a good POS system. Uh, all those things, I could see the advantage there. Um, what I have a hard time understanding is why it seems like it's the first time that any state agency has done it this way. I'm thinking back to other completely unrelated agencies like the Secretary of State's office. Even now, they have a legacy system to go back and look at legacy data.
Yeah.
Everything that got brought over didn't necessarily have that historical stuff, and so you can go back and look at the two things and compare and contrast, and a lot of stuff. State agencies do it that way. Here's the I think court records actually, right? Like you can go back and look at an old system and look at court records in a different way than the new way. So
Yep.
doesn't it's very confusing to me, and so I'd love to hear what the state has to say on as far as why they can't do it. But
I would too. Definitely would too. That's one of the questions we've asked. Man, there was a lot there. So, retailers, you'd presume since they're starting with the retail module, everything would be great and good to go. But right now, what's going to happen is they're going to have to manually enter tax, and they're going to have to manually enter several other things at the register. And then that has to get carried over to the system from there. So, oh boy, good luck with that. Um, on manifests. So when we transfer product from either our farm to a retailer or our farm to a manufacturer, there's an internal system process for that, and it spits out a piece of paper with all of your information on your license, where you're heading, time and date, and every single product with the 16-digit tracking number from the system on there. We're going to have to manually enter every piece of information on those at the start when they supposedly bring the system up. For some businesses, some manufacturers in particular, they have orders that literally have thousands of line items on them. That's just one issue with that. So lots of manual data entry. Your COAs, they're going to have to be manually input for a while, which is absolutely crazy. Um, there, you're right. We're definitely not against a new system. And at first, I think in general the community was a little apprehensive, but kind of excited that finally a local company was awarded a project like this to work on. They don't have really cannabis experience, but so what? Let them prove up what they can do. It's kind of the attitude I've had all along, and we were excited. But as time went on, there were no communications at all. The attitude has largely been and was really confirmed for me this weekend that we're the regulators, you're the regulated. Shut up. We'll give you what we want to give you, and that that's no way to treat legal businesses. Um, Not only that, but the cannabis community in general is highly skeptical of authority, highly skeptical,
Yeah,
and,
kind of
and
comes with
that's
the
the
kind of
wrong.
comes with the territory usually.
Yeah, yes, and that is the absolute wrong behavior and wrong way to treat a community that's already highly skeptical. When you have a government agency coming at you saying, "This is how," that's not any way to win friends and influence people. Come on. You
Yeah.
go out and you do the community work. The community work is hard. It can be grueling sometimes and sometimes not fun because people get in your face, but that's part of the job. You got to go out and do it. Just how it is. None of that has been done at all. And up to this point, it's just been here's what you're getting. Sorry. Not
Um,
even a sorry.
so trying to see if I can understand this. So, okay, so we've got the growers, their sort of workaround is keep good notes, right? And trust that we're going to take your good note keeping.
Yep.
Um, Retailers, so somebody must have figured out along the way we can't stop retailers from like putting them at, basically selling shit, right? So
Yeah.
we have
That
to
need you need people with get their medicine and everything else.
right,
Yeah.
right. And so obviously that would be bad for business, but also terrible for that is exactly how you get people to go to the black market, right? So okay. So we got
Yep.
that covered. The middle part would be the manufacturers, right? The folks that are turning it into gummies or drinks or extracts or vape pens, all the stuff between flour and or I mean like biomass and buying flour at the store.
Yep.
Hash, all those things they can go through the process of doing all those things, but they can't. There has to be. Is there a limitation for manufacturers of okay, uh, like let's say you've got some biomass and you haven't transferred it over to. I'm guessing you have to say like okay, this amount of flour turned into this amount of extract or whatever it is, right? Like you have to sort of follow that path along in the
Yeah.
track and trace
There's a
system.
basic chain. Yep.
So if you don't get your product into that manufacturing facility before things go dark, are you screwed? Do you just have to hold on to that biomass and you cannot? Um, or I guess that I mean I'm asking you because but also it's probably your best guess. That's the other issue is that a lot of people have questions and no answers.
Well, right now, knowing how things are going to work, it's going to be difficult for manufacturers too because there's a conversion process in BioTrack right now. So you start with your raw flour and then it gets converted to a different form, whether that's uh, cannabis for, well, no, there's even a step in between. I can't remember what RSO would be considered, but that's basically the crude oil that comes from the first step of the extraction process with
And
solvents. But each step there's a conversion.
everything's by weight, right? So
Exactly. It's all by weight.
you can go from let's say 20 pounds of raw biomass turns into whatever ounces instead of pounds. Now it's become ounces or liters or I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
mixing measurements here, but like it's
You
gonna
got the process right.
it's gonna reduce significantly, you know.
Significantly. Yeah, absolutely. And what would usually happen is on that code that's created for that particular lot, the weights would follow that through each step of the process. So in the crude, they'd enter the weight. In the next step, if they're taking it straight to oil, they'd enter the weight for the final piece of oil or whatever it becomes next. Diamonds, all of that stuff. And the system keeps track of that. You can do it on paper, absolutely. Do it on paper, do it on an Excel sheet. A lot of people still do that, but boy, that there's a lot of room for error, and it's a like I said, a lot of trust me, bro, on the numbers, and we can't be operating that way
Well,
at
it's
all. We're having tremendous issues with black market activity already.
trust on multiple levels. It's the state trusting that an operator is not fudging some numbers on the spreadsheet. Also, there's some trust in there that people actually will do it better than. I mean, I remember going back to again, off on a side note, even when BioTrack was around in the early days of the medical program, uh, even though BioTrack tracked all that stuff, the annual reports, the monthly reports from operators, I remember this, were self-reported. It was all,
Mhm.
they would just take numbers from BioTrack, put it into a spreadsheet and create. So some places had this big profit and loss list, and some places just had quick spreadsheets. Some people had like a quick little note. So you're also trusting that people are going to stay somewhat consistent. But the biggest one is that operators are now going to have to, like you said, they don't have that trust in the government. Now they're going to have to trust that the state isn't going to come back 6 months from now and say that spreadsheet is no good. We're going to ding you because it looks like you added product to your list, to your inventory, right?
Well, that's definitely one of the fears. Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of my ongoing ones with predicted dry weight. No, some of these things operationally just do not make any sense.
So
I,
you said that earlier, and I forgot to ask about that. What can you explain more what they're expecting you to do to predict the dry and wet weight?
Yeah. So what we do when we harvest, obviously we're taking branches off the plant and hanging them, but we'll take like a full bin, for example, of one plant. We'll weigh it. That's considered the wet weight because it just came off the plant, and we'll enter that wet weight into BioTrack. And then if there's any waste or trim, we enter the weights for those as well. Then, currently in BioTrack, what you do in the system is you say, okay, I'm drying this. There's no issues with dry weight or anything because you're in the drying phase. What you do after it's dried and you're beginning the curing process, you flip it over into the system into an actual lot, and then you weigh it out to say, okay, my actual dry weight is this. And obviously, it doesn't have to be spot on because there's always going to be moisture loss and aging and other things with the actual flour itself. So you do your best to preserve it, but you always lose extra water weight in the long run. What they're going to be asking us to do, or what no, what they're going to be requiring us to do is entering that wet weight, which is easy to get because you are weighing it on the spot, getting that weight. But they're also saying we want you to put in here a predicted wet weight or dry weight, which doesn't make much sense. Yeah, sure, I'll predict it. It's fine, but what happens if I'm off by like 15%? Does CCD come knocking at my door now going, "We saw you're off by 15% on your dry weights. What's going on?" It's like, "Well, it's a predicted dry weight. What do you want me to do?" So,
Yeah, I think seems like the people that are gonna operators that will have at least at least hardest time. That's not what I mean, but like I don't want to say the easiest time either, but I'm thinking outdoor grows versus indoor grows, right? Like outdoor grows relatively straightforward. It's going to be a little too early in these next couple weeks for anybody to be worrying about wet weight or dry weight, most likely. I mean, depending on whatever their
yeah,
stuff is.
whatever
It
happens, yeah.
it's the indoor people who are on a very routine schedule of harvesting. If your harvesting falls right in the middle of this, and sometimes it's hard to get away with, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of ifs ifs situated in there, you know. I guess you could hold off 6 days from harvesting, but then it goes back to your other point that you sort of mentioned before that we haven't even gotten into is the loss of revenue in this, right? Is that that 6 day cycle can really throw people off. Is I think what you were telling me, right? Is that these things are so short that the time frames are so short on this that if I'm an operator and I hold off harvesting for 6 days, and assuming that everything is right on schedule and starts up and no problems, then my whole cycle is 6 days late, right?
Well, not so much on the harvest because you're still allowed to work while the while the system
Right,
is
right, right.
down.
Yeah, you're doing the spreadsheet stuff.
So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's more the sales cycle, which I'm glad you brought that up because that's a really important thing to talk about. So cannabis has a rhythm. Our sales week really has a rhythm. The rhythm looks like week one, I'm a dispensary. I place an order with a manufacturer or grower. During that same week, the order is put together and fulfilled and entered into BioTrack. Week two typically is I've got arrangements with a courier company to come pick my order up and deliver it. That does not usually happen until mid to end of week for a lot of places outside of Albuquerque and outside of Las Cruces. Um, so really, the sales cycle is a 2 week cycle. What you're doing by shutting down operators from being able to conduct commerce, i.e., make sales, is cutting that or I'm sorry, increasing that sales cycle from 2 weeks up to 4 weeks because now you're behind by 2 weeks. You got to shove it into the next 2 weeks and make it up. So really, the sales cycle is going to be behind by a month for a lot of operators. That means lack of revenue for really up to a month because you're not going to see the revenue spigot turned back on day seven. It doesn't happen like that because of the rhythm. So you're completely throwing that rhythm off. You're completely throwing the system into disarray for at least a month when it comes to cash flow. In that time, uh, if this happens like they're saying it's going to happen, which they're saying they're doing because it's going to minimize disruptions. It's actually going to increase disruptions because cash flow will be so off. People are going to have to lay off employees. Licensees are going to have to lay off employees. Some of them will likely have to shut their doors, almost guaranteed. I talked to one manufacturer. They'll lose over $100,000 in business in 1 week, and they'll have to lay off 11 employees because of cash flow. Um, the margins on our products are not very high. They're paper thin, and when you're operating a low margin business like that, you make up for it in volume, which means more sales. And we just if we're not able to sell, we can't do that. So we're going to see I think I hate to say this, but I think we're going to see a chain reaction of events here where those who've been on the edge or on the line for a while are really not going to make it through this.
Um, so yeah, I'm just thinking from the states. If I'm a state agency or I'm the state any agency, uh, you know this probably just as well as anybody having been on that other side. There has to be a certain element from them that they're for whatever reason they feel stuck and thing. Like, that I guess what I'm getting at is that um, it very well could be that the state is going essentially at the end of the day, they may not have a problem doing it, but they're just waiting for a judge to tell. You know what I mean? Like I don't know the right way to put it, but like you see this happen with state agencies all the time where they're going, hey, I mean, again, everyone can interpret the uh how genuine she was being in this situation, but the current governor was, and her administration was fighting back on the gross receipts tax stuff for medical cannabis for years, right? You had a couple of producers saying this is the same, and I don't want to get too deep into the specifics, but essentially because it was technically not a prescription and a recommendation from a doctor, because that was the argument was that cannabis should be treated like prescription medication and be gross receipts tax exempt, essentially. I'm probably using the wrong language, but not charge gross receipts. Um, and the state was saying, no, well, it's you can't because it's actually not a prescription. And really, the reason it was not a prescription was because uh, they couldn't call it a prescription because it was still federally illegal, right? It was like that was the way to protect doctors early on. Is like we can't have doctors going to jail for prescribing something that's anyway.
Yeah.
That's all background, but I remember I interviewed the governor directly over this because her administration fought it, fought it, fought it. It went to it was like somewhere between the Court of Appeals and the state Supreme Court. I don't know. I think it sort of stalled out because legalization was sort of happening. Legalization happened, and they baked into the Cannabis Regulation Act that medical is exempt, right? So I interviewed the governor right after legalization, full rec or adult use, whatever you want to call it. And I kind of asked her, like, why challenge it this far? And her answer was a very, again, I'll let everyone interpret their, how genuine she was being in this, but it's a classic, like, sort of legal answer. I'll say that, well,
Hmm.
we wanted the courts to weigh in on it, because I was in a polite way, but sort of pushing on this notion of you're talking about how great medical is for patients and it helps all these other people. Like, why would you then be stick so hard on this? And her answer is essentially is like, this is the way we read the law. We feel like we have to do this. We can't make this decision. We need a judge to make the decision for us. All that stuff. So again, full disclaimer that like everyone can interpret that how they want. I'm not here to editorialize whatever. That's my long rambling way of saying that I could see an argument from the state in this same point of saying, for whatever reason, our hands are tied and we have to do it this way. If a judge says stop, we will stop, right? But I don't know. I mean, that's a very generous interpretation of what's happening because for all we know, if a judge grants this emergency injunction, I mean, it's not guaranteed that the state's not going to push back again. It's
Oh, no doubt. Well, I know their reason, and what they're saying is the contract with BioTrack expires September 16th, I think it is. But we've found a document that shows that the contract is available until September of 2027, not 2026, and it's just not funded through this September.
I mean, it seems like
Um,
any contract, especially because they've been renewing it with BioTrack over and over again, and not even renewing it, just extending the contract, right?
yeah,
There's not even a
yeah,
formal renewal process. It's just like, hey, handshake deal, can we just keep this going? So I would be completely surprised if the contract didn't have something, no pun intended or pun fully intended, I guess, baked in, to say, in case of emergency, we get an extra year, you know.
sure, but not even that. But the state always has options to move money around into to different places. I mean, for crying out loud, the governor started a child care program without having any funding or authorization from the legislature. So, okay, you can do that, but you can't find a couple $100,000 to give to BioTrack while we're working on making sure a system is actually fully up and operational. Like, come on, guys. It doesn't make sense to me at all. Like find the money. and make it work. I'm really hoping that's what a judge says, because that's really what it'll end up boiling down to at the end of the day.
Yeah, and again, my dumb non-financial brain is thinking there's definitely money there for it because it's part of the fiscal year. This year has been budgeted. I don't think the budget explicitly says we only have money budgeted for BioTrack until September, and then but like yeah, that money's going to somebody, like
Yeah, well, and
uh,
even if it is budgeted only till September,
yeah,
we've got record revenues coming
yeah,
into the state. Go to LFC. There's a process where they can go ask for more money if they need it. But also a couple $100,000 in most government
yeah,
agency
and
budget is rounding.
right. And then the other thing to remember about budgets is that they're not separate bank accounts. When you have all these like buckets of money,
Yep.
um, it's not it's frowned upon and not really supposed to be this way. But obviously, we know it's happened before. We're going to take the money from this fund, and we'll pay it back later. And we'll explain it to the
Could do that.
legislature. We'll explain it to the legislature when we ask for the more money for the next budget. Why the money was off.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. There's ways to make it happen if you want to make it happen. I'll just put it that way.
well, and I mean, ultimately, like. I guess I might be a little bit surprised that they would challenge an emergency injunction. I think if a judge says you got to stop, you got to like at that point they can appeal it, but like they can't stop the injunction. I don't. I guess they could. Who knows? Uh,
We'll see what happens. I'm optimistic that the court will rule in our favor, but you never know. I mean,
and real quick before I forget to break down, obviously neither of us are lawyers, but we do both know enough about sort of the process of this too. So that I think there's another question that comes up, maybe not explicitly, maybe sometimes, but like why file this injunction, right? Like why not just power through and try to um, negotiate and let them see their ways. But I think what maybe the folks that don't cover a lot of courts and lawsuits or that kind of thing forget that there is specifically a mechanism, this injunction, this emergency injunction, and you see it happen all the time. In a certain way, it's not, I don't think it was emergency injunction, but it was similar to like the child care thing you were talking about, right? Where um, I think I think it was unsuccessful. I can't remember exactly what happened, but I feel like somebody in that party in that lawsuit,
yeah,
Duke and his side said, "Hey, you got to stop funding this until we figure out whether this is legal or not." Um,
yep,
and there's this notion of irreparable harm, right? And that's the argument I think that your lawyer made is like if you go through with this, there will be harm to businesses that you cannot repair, right?
100%.
Um,
Yep,
if you pause it, there is no real damage to the state, right? Like that's sort of the argument there is like the state's going to be
yep,
fine if you pause rolling this out or change rolling this out or how like stop in your tracks. But if you don't stop in your tracks, there's a high probability that businesses will be hurt in a way that you cannot repair. I mean, not like stuff that money can't solve unless
yeah,
you unless you
exactly.
throw so much money at a business to like bring it back to life. But yeah, I think so. I think that's a maybe a possibly misunderstand understood thing with some folks that like yeah, it is an aggressive tactic to sue somebody anytime, but sometimes it is the process that you have to go through to make change.
We really don't want to be here. I mean,
Yeah.
this is costing businesses money to file this lawsuit that we'll never get back, and it could be just the start too. But this is really the last step in everything that we've tried. Literally, uh, February was one of the first conversations I had with the director about the track and trace system. Oh yeah, we'll be with industry throughout the way. We'll definitely sit down and work with you guys. Same thing all the way through up until June when we got the first survey, and that's when really a lot of industry started asking questions. Well, what's going on with this thing? Give us an update. How can we be helpful? Sending letters, emails, everything that you could do. We sent, I guess, kind of a final letter a few weeks ago where when CCD rolled out their last update to the industry, telling us we were going to have to shut down for 6 days. We sent a letter from the Canon board saying, please pause this. Um, we listed all the reasons why that we've been talking about today. Um, and then last week, late one night, it was like 8:15 at night, I got a reply that basically said, go pound sand, we're not pausing this thing. And that was really kind of the last straw for everyone because as I've said, we just want to be at the table talking about this. Show us what you're working on. Like, give some transparency, especially in a day and age where if you pay even a little bit of attention to the news, the distrust for government right now is at an all-time high. So show a little transparency, even if you just gave us a little sneak peek of what you were working on. But none of that happened. So now we're at this point where we especially feel like there's going to be irreparable harm to our businesses, and the only way to make sure that doesn't happen right now, because of the lack of transparency, is to file an emergency injunction to stop this thing from rolling forward like it is right now.
So I expect uh you'll keep everyone updated as we record more. I think we covered some of the bigger things I wanted to hit on those things where I got a couple of things I wanted to bring up, but as far
Yeah.
as this thing goes, I think we got the big ones is like why the organization is suing, what the hopeful outcome is, sort of what it means for folks that it's not just a complainy baby cry situation of we don't want a new tracking system. I will say, just a side note, when you mentioned the spreadsheets, I want to say, and you know more about this than I do. I'm trying to recall somebody telling me a few years back that was it Oregon or someplace that just like didn't doesn't even have a track and trace company overseeing. There was someplace, maybe it was Nevada or someplace that was like
Oh,
that the whole tracking thing was like, here's a spreadsheet, just fill it out, basically.
Yeah, Washington State kind of does
Maybe
that
that's
where
what it
you
was.
fill it in and you upload it to their system. But the reason they do that is because they did something similar where they tried to build a system like this
And it
and it
crashed and burned.
completely, oh yeah, completely crashed and burned. I will say what we have here that they didn't have there though is actually an industry that's stepping up. We've got a really solid plaintiffs group. It's uniting the industry in a way I'd never thought I'd see. Believe it or not, you've got Oasis Cannabis Company with Kane, who in whatever. There's a lot of different things said about a lot of different people in this
Right.
industry. He's one of the bigger players. He's come to the table on this. You've got Blaze POS that's come to the table. Vana, a manufacturing company that uh, has vapes and stores in some really incredible places. They've come to the table. You've got Higher Cultures, who also sits on our board. Amanda sits on our board. A couple others too. Um, you've got a non-plaintiff witness in Flourish coming out because third-party providers, where a lot of our businesses rely on them for a lot of our business functions, third-party providers haven't even been provided an API yet. So they can't even connect to the system, and that screws with a lot of our business functions, all the way from the first sale and customer out to invoicing through QuickBooks. So really messes with the whole business. But great plaintiffs group. It's really an issue that's united. I would say a majority of the industry here, and people are really coming together. I'm hoping this is the start of something really big for the industry in New Mexico.
Couple of housekeeping stuff for us too before I forget. I don't
Mhm.
know. We'll try. I'll get this episode out at ASAP, but I'm pretty sure it will at least be out. I don't know if people will be seeing it then, but you and I will be on KKOB tomorrow, Monday the 24th from 3 to 6, filling in for TJ Trout. And so we'll probably talk more about this if anybody wants to not chime in but listen in on that. Um,
Absolutely.
the oh man, what was the other housekeeping issue I had? Oh, just that. If you made it this far in the video and you got some questions or comments, like, because I my main concern about this conversation today and any that we have in the future is to try to add context to some of this stuff, right?
It's a lot.
Um, I
Yeah.
think I think at this point, I mean, I know you won't complain about getting more chances to to explain this, but it's not so much a lack of coverage. I want to be clear that, the reporters that talked to you and had this conversation. Shout out to Kylie Garcia, who took a very complicated issue and uh, at the Journal
She did
and
a good job.
but
Yeah.
put it into print there. But not everyone has the space or time to explain some of these contextual things of why it really matters. And of course, you've got um, lots of different voices in the industry saying lots of different stuff. So for whatever all that stuff's worth, there's probably some other, obviously, there's other voices that you and I did not touch on or didn't, you know what I mean? Like that see things differently than you do and have
Sure.
opinion about it. But
There always is.
um,
There
yeah,
always is.
sure. To kind of wrap things up, I wanted to talk. This is more thought experiment, utopia, like ooh, giddy giddy. Let's what the future looks like. But big picture, take like 10,000 foot view of all of this stuff. I always like to think about, well, what is it? How would things change in any of these things if when things are federally legal and you have interstate commerce, right? And it reminds me of another weed podcast I did years ago, and my co-host and I interviewed some researcher from Colorado, and a lot of the research project that we were talking about was um, showing basically like hotspots for energy production or energy use, not production, energy use, uh, and sort of combined with water, like electricity. And what you found, this was a few years ago, but excuse me, places like Hawaii and Colorado were the ones that were like expending the most energy. And sort of the hypothesis there was that, well, those are the places that you can't grow outside as long. I guess Hawaii you can, but you're sort of for whatever reason, maybe they were doing more indoor in Hawaii. I don't understand that. But in Colorado, like, yeah, if you're growing throughout the wintertime, you gotta have a big warehouse full of lights. That's electricity. You gotta have your if you're using ozone to, replicate outdoor air, you've got all the pest control and water and all this energy
Hmm.
that goes into it. And I remember asking the two researchers that wrote this paper, like, so what's the solution here? And they kind of said like interstate commerce because, and I know there's states like Colorado and Minnesota that are not going to like to hear this, but uh, then you have growing regions, right? We don't,
Yeah.
we don't grow oranges in New Mexico, right? Uh,
Right.
and they don't grow pecans in Nevada. Maybe they do, but like, they definitely don't grow the chili that we grow anywhere else. Fuck you, Colorado,
Right.
by the way.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
I know you're a Colorado boy. I'm not starting a war
No,
here,
no, no. I'm a New Mexican man. I don't
uh,
claim Colorado anymore.
well, you definitely don't. I know you don't claim their chili, um,
Hell no.
but yeah, I mean, just that notion that all of this stuff is going to possibly be laughable, 20, 30, 40 years down the road if we have this interstate commerce thing. And not to scare people doesn't mean that we're going to stop growing our local weed in New Mexico. But I mean, Jesus, could you imagine if like I mean, maybe we could put ourselves on the map as for that's the whole point, right? Is like let's try
Yeah.
to get ourselves on the map for when this happens. But yeah, I mean, you're not going to be buying a bunch of shit from Minnesota and Colorado unless they have, I don't know. It's the natural sort of chain of events there. It's like we buy apples from Washington, we buy oranges from Florida, we buy avocados from California or Mexico. Um, you know, that some of this stuff almost becomes moot because like then we stop doing this track and trace stuff altogether, right? I mean, it's the only sort of
Yeah.
mind
And then it,
altering substance that's
yeah.
legal that we're worried about tracking any of this stuff.
Yep.
I don't know that Coors worries about how much if the federal government knows how much they're brewing at any given time and how much goes out the door versus how much goes down workers' gullets.
Well, like Coors back in the day used to put party balls in their break rooms. I
I
mean,
I mean
fuck.
it may I'm sure it's changed more recently, but I remember going to a Rainier brewery to where even I wasn't even old enough to drink, but my mom and stepdad did. And they were like, yeah, workers get a six pack every shift, you know. I don't know
Yep.
that they were necessarily saying everyone drinks a six pack at work, but like You get a six pack your shift. I guess you could sit in, and they had a little bar area that you could
Yeah.
go sit in. Yeah.
I in an ideal world, yeah, 20, 30, 40 years from now, none of this stuff will even matter because people will probably be able to walk down the streets and smoke a J in a lot of places. So
Yeah.
the problem is you don't get there without this kind of work being done first.
Sure.
Um, in a lot of ways, we're pioneering this industry and pioneering the law and the case law that's going to go behind it. And that takes a little bit of suffering at the time. And you gotta do what you gotta do. Um, you brought up interstate commerce in growing zones. I don't know. I guess the kind of hippie in me feels like I'm still pretty much always going to buy New Mexico cannabis because it's produced here. With the exception of maybe some higher end Cali stuff, which would be really nice to be able to get my hands on a little more. Um, cannabis really is one of those things that it's better local, just like beef and
The honey,
vegetables
right?
and really everything. Yeah, honey, everything else. So, you know, yeah, interstate commerce will really open things up. That's going to benefit more the Walmarts of the world, which whatever, say what you will, there's probably a place for those businesses too. But one of the really cool things about New Mexico is I feel like on average we probably have more what's considered craft living soil growers than a lot of places do. Most of us are outdoors as well, which is
Yeah,
super unique.
I think we can easily, and every state could has an opportunity to set themselves up in some sort
Yep.
of position themselves in some sort of version of the market. And you're exactly right. There's still plenty of people that go buy their half a cow from their favorite rancher in New Mexico, and they have a freezer full of beef, or they're a
Yeah.
hunter, or they're their own farmer. The same goes for well, coffee's a little bit different because it's not grown here, but like some people only buy their coffee from a local place. Sometimes people go
Yeah.
buy from Starbucks at Smith's. Sometimes
Exactly.
they buy the Kroger brand. Uh,
Hmm.
so I didn't mean to scare folks of like, oh, the local market's gonna fall apart. I think it's just different opportunities,
Yeah.
and also
It'll look
interstate
totally different.
interstate commerce is a good thing overall because that means you get to sell your fire Taos shit to some fucking hipsters in San Diego. Um, like,
Yeah, well, it breaks down all the transportation barriers, so nobody's getting arrested at the airport for having weed on them, like stupidest thing in the world.
yeah,
So there's a lot of positive that comes from it. It's the market in those days will look very, very different than it does. New Mexico's market will be incredibly different. I think it'll look more like the beer scene where you've got your big beer guys, maybe a couple middle tier things, and you've got your super craft stuff. I think that's really how this local market shakes out. We're actually already starting to see some of that. And I really feel like that's how it's going to be in the future. If we can get away from rescheduling and just completely deschedule, that's how I think it looks. If they keep it rescheduled, um, you're talking FDA approvals and heavier tracking and all that kind of stuff. And you can pretty much really forget about a lot of the smaller craft side of
yeah, I
things.
think probably the best bet is to just get it out of that scheduling completely. Uh,
Hmm.
I think you still, even doing that, you still have an opportunity to keep a strong medical program across the country in all these different states because prices go down at that point too. I mean, as long
Hmm.
as it's sort of parked in this sort of quasi-medical area, that's where we're always going to have the fear of pharma putting pricing stuff out. I mean, I think if you just completely take it out of the rescheduling and let some other agency govern it like or regulate it like they do alcohol
Yeah.
or tobacco, that it just I mean it's going to be so much easier. You can well grow it your own, you can buy it from a local farmer, you can do all those things, or if you would just prefer to buy the scientifically GMO whatever, then you can go buy it from the Walmart of the wheat place.
Dude, you know what? I think the coolest thing in the world would be for me to be able to go with jars or pounds to my farmer's market and set up on my table all my locally grown vegetables, which I do every Saturday, and all my locally grown weed. That would be absolutely amazing. After all, it's just another agricultural product. That's all it
I
is.
it does get irritating to think how often alcohol is overlooked when people are talking about the fears of cannabis, right? Where I'm like,
Super irritating.
I mean, you can there is you can draw a pathway to all those things, even to and this is what we should talk about this for another episode, but like
Mhm.
federal employees getting drug tested, right? Like uh you don't you don't test them for alcohol, and I would argue that that's just as important. Like let's make sure that they're not still drunk from the night before. If we're really worried about,
Exactly.
random drug testing and making sure that people aren't fucking up, like let's make sure that they're not drinking at lunchtime. Let's make sure that I'm not saying that they should all be drug tested every day, but if you're going to do a random drug test, why
Do it
stop?
all.
Yeah, why stop at weed and cocaine and heroin,
Well, the last I checked, weed has actually helped people improve their health. It helps people stop drinking,
Mm.
helps people get off of pharma bullshit. It helps people lose weight, helps people gain weight. It helps you with liver conditions. It helps your brain, your lungs, your eyesight. So many things cannabis helps with. Our bodies are meant to ingest, our bodies are meant to receive the molecules that cannabis provides to it through our endocannabinoid system. That is science fact. And cannot be argued otherwise. So it's there. Last I checked, all those other things you listed are poison,
Well, and that's what I
and
was
they're
just gonna say
legal.
is that like you could argue that alcohol is not regulated enough, right? When it comes
Sure.
to if we're talking about safety and kids and misuse of things, because that's sort of where all of this leads to.
Yep.
Even the coolest people that I've talked to, who just not weed smokers, sort of you can tell that they're still a little bit brainwashed with the thing of like, well, I'd hope my surgeon's not smoking weed. And I'm like, I don't care if my surgeon's smoking weed. I prefer that he didn't do it right before he walked into the fucking
Yeah,
operating
as long as you're
room.
not stoned
Like,
while he's
yeah,
cutting on me, sure.
yeah,
But wait, who knows? Because it could be a cognitive enhancer for him.
sure.
Like there
Yeah.
are some that do that for people.
But I
Like,
don't hear a lot of people really all that concerned about like giving
I hope he's
people
not drunk.
a breathalyzer before they go in.
Yeah. Oh,
And
that's right.
it's like this argument doesn't ever it always falls flat in my mind because I think most people would say, "Oh, well, you don't need to do that. You can kind of tell when people are drunk." And I'm like, "Well, you can kind of tell when people are high too." You know, like
Yeah.
you can tell if
Yeah.
somebody's sleepy or stressed or, tripping over their own
Yeah.
feet. Like
Exactly.
and so this notion of like how scary it might be if you can just go buy weed at a farmer's market, and I'm like, I mean, we're not you can the barrier to selling your own like a micro brew is pretty fucking low.
Compared
Maybe
to this, yeah.
maybe you can't sell beer at a farmer's market. I get that. Um, but there's a lot of ways that we let people do stuff. I mean, we have city sanctioned block parties at the Civic Plaza in Albuquerque that have beer
Hmm.
vendors, and they somehow manage to make sure that only people that are 21 are drinking, and like it's real fucking simple, real easy.
Yep.
And to just make it more widespread and easier to get without worrying about all these loopholes, like just I don't I think the fear is unfounded. Like what's going to happen if we just completely take out of scheduling together nothing? uh
Everybody's gonna fall asleep and be happier in the long run.
well, and I don't, I can't imagine that use is actually going to go up that much. We've seen a sort of microcosm of that in New Mexico. The Everyone saying, "Oh, look at the sales went up, the sales went up," and I'm like, "Yeah, but the medical sales also went down almost the exact by the same
And a
amount."
lot of that's being driven by things happening in Texas. I mean, they banned hemp products there
Yeah,
again, so it, it's an inflow of people from Texas. Just
it's
look
not
where the
like
sales come from.
there's a bunch of people that just started smoking weed because it became legal. Like
Yeah, no, we're always going to be a heavy weed smoking state. That just
yep.
New Mexico loves flower. We love our cannabis in general, so we're always going to be blazing here. There's no question about that.
It's almost less offensive to light up a pre-roll than it is to light up a tobacco cigarette.
These days, yeah, I'd much rather be around a joint than a
Yeah.
cigarette. I mean, come on.
Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, there's just I don't know, and this is gonna always be this way. I mean, I don't, it's just the I was talking to somebody else and they were talking about how strong cannabis is these days and blah blah blah. And like, sure, it's stronger than it was in the 70s. And if you haven't smoked since the 70s, it's gonna be a thing. But I mean, So have beers, you know. I can't go to a brewery without that has anything less than 6% alcohol in it. So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Well,
like,
you can manage that a couple of different ways too. You can moderate your intake. You don't have to smoke a whole joint in one sitting. Another thing that a lot of people are doing now is seeking out the lower testing strains out there, because there are some places that will sell lower testers. I love that because I've honestly have had better highs off of 10, 12, 14 percenters than a lot of these ones where people are like, oh yeah, I got the 31, 32%. A lot of times those highs feel really empty and more like I'm buzzing than anything, because there's only so much room in the plant for certain molecules. And if you're pushing THC higher, all your terpenes and other cannabinoids are going to suffer from that, and everything else, all the other compounds.
and
So,
the chances of anybody watching me say these words right now that they're maybe not already in the community and fellow smokers or users, but I mean, my message to anybody that says it's too strong is like start literally calling your dispensaries and saying, do you carry, like, let them know that that's what you want. I mean, right now,
mhm.
no one's buying that shit for a variety of reasons. Not that they don't want it. I'm just saying it's like a cyclical thing where people
Yeah,
know their dispensary doesn't have anything less than 20%, so they're not even going to try. Meanwhile, the dispensary is like, well, nobody's asked us for it. You know, nobody's
yep,
nobody's banging down our door for Charlotte's Web. You know,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
but if that's what people want, they will start carrying it. If people
Ask
want,
for it.
yeah, yeah, um,
That's as simple as that. And it's really not hard for people like Veronica who wholesale to find something like that. There's plenty of farms out there that still will have low testers. In this market, a low tester is considered 18 or 19%, which is wild. But it is. Still, most of them provide really good highs because you're actually getting the entourage effect from everything
yep,
everything in the plant.
yeah. And I mean, we talked about this before. The whole not Whole Foods, the Total Wine and some other folks
Hmm.
have the market on the lower dosage drinks and that kind of thing. But I would say the same thing. If you want smaller pre-rolls, if you want a lower dose, you want something that tests closer to 16, start asking around for it, and
Yep.
but yeah, I think everyone also should consider uh even if you ask for it and they bring it, because I know there's a dispensary close to me that did have Charlotte's Web for a while. And I was going to buy it for a friend who was intimidated to go into the dispensary, but really wanted the almost no THC,
Hmm.
but wanted that entourage effect to happen. Um, I just don't think it was a big seller. So I think that particular dispensary just stopped carrying it because
Yeah.
it's essentially CBD at that point, right? Like I think Charlotte's
Yeah.
Web is essentially CBD flower.
But there's some education that needs to go on the consumer side of things too, and I think we can do some things with the labeling and not making the potency
Percentage, yeah,
as
yeah.
big a deal, because right now that's what's front and center. I'd rather know what it smells like and what the terpenes are to really decide how my body's going to react to it. In really, shopping with your nose is what matters anyway, because if
Yeah.
your body, when you smell something, your body reacts to it in a positive way, it's like, oh yeah, I need that right now. Just like I'm craving a hamburger. It's a good
Yeah,
thing I
yeah,
can't smell one right now.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I mean, those are all, long-term things but
Yep.
anyway, I think we probably talked everybody's ears off if they're still around or not. But yeah, we'll keep people up to
Good
date.
stuff.
Again, we'll be on
You got it.
KKOP tomorrow, Monday. I guess that's it. Yeah, unless you have anything else, Matt. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good, man. It was good show. We'll keep talking about this. Maybe next week we'll talk about something a little bit
Yeah,
different.
yeah, I don't think it's going to be every
Maybe.
week, but
We'll see what happens.
we'll have some updates as they come along.
Yes, sir. You got it.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Andy.
everybody.